standardize the methodology across all manufacturers, across all units, so that the public can be better trained in this?
I don't know if we're actually at a time when we're ready to standardize the bags. I know we have our own on-site laboratory that is continuing research on human waste and ways to kill the pathogens in the human waste so that it is more environmentally friendly. So at this point, it's constantly ongoing. It's constantly evolving. And as you can see, by how many more providers we're getting, I mean, competition is great, and I think that's wonderful. And I think the awareness that we're receiving now in the public, in the whole industry, in the environment, it's only going to improve. So I don't see at this point yet any standardization.
The question I have also kind of ties in some of the different climbing-specific areas, Shasta, Rainier. There are fees and or permits and in some cases restrictions. So the climbers through their fees are paying for the pack-out system. But they're also in areas where people who are not subject to the permit or the fee are also going. And just trying to find out, you know, what do you do? Like if you're on Muir Snowfield, there are people hiking up there, people on Shasta, are they contributing to the waste issue, and how, you know, how can we reconcile who's paying, who's creating the problem, and who's solving the problem?
Well, in Shasta, most of our non-climbers, our high use area is on the south side of the mountain, and most of them are going to horse camp, or they may be going out of the ski bowl where there is an outhouse and a walk-in campground there. So I think a lot of the hikers are not using the pack-out bags. And a lot of them are staying at and below tree line, and they do have some toilet facilities available to them. I would say on Mount Shasta, almost complete use of the pack-out bags is by climbers.
I think it's a dangerous precedent to set up where you're going to provide it for users for forever and then make it part of your fees. That makes you kind of a vendor of sorts. And I know that you're trying to get people thinking and working on it. I think it's something that you have to do for a period of time. But, you know, in the river community, the river user provides the bag or whatever system. They buy it. They use it. The outfitter buys it. They use it. And it's on them. You don't want it to be on you. My advice in the long term. But I also think that at the short term and getting people used to it, it's kind of necessary. And if you have a steep climbing fee, I don't actually consider $20 to be a steep fee. I think it probably is for some kinds of climbers, right? In Yosemite, they don't pay anything, I guess, ever, or even get permits. But in river community, you know, Grand Canyon, I don't know what those cost, but they're a lot. There's some big impact fees that are associated with river trips, but they don't get any bags either.
On Denali, we are trying to find someone to be a vendor for the Clean Mountain Can program. And someday we'd like just to have it to where you don't have a can, you don't go. And I know the Clean Mountain Cans, Mike Loso has got them used with Alaska Pacific University. And I know it's kind of branching out to bigger groups. Knowles looked at them and tried them.
With most international uses, you don't have the ability to enforce the regulations that are going to require people to carry it out. Is there any sort of development on the horizon of a compostable bag that you could just fill and leave somewhere and it takes care of itself? Because most of the international situations, that's what you're going to end up needing in the long term.
This bag gets left in a lot of places. And this is the best we've come across so far. Now the same company that makes this, they have a display in the back. I had them send, they got a new product out just now. They're hoping to have it out in a larger quantity in a year. But unfortunately, some climbers, not too many, leave them just on the surface on the glaciers. And ones I've come across on doing cleanup climbs, I've found actually where the waste was touching the bag, it was eaten away. And all I found was the bag underneath the waste that had been in contact with the snow. It was a pain to clean up, but in any case, it had eaten away in a period of a month or two of exposure on a pretty harsh, bright sunlight, freezing, thawing kind of a place on the lower glaciers.
Well, I'm talking about bags that actually treat the waste. So a bag would compost it within the bag so that you can just put it in the bag and put it aside and you treat it. Is there anything like that being developed by any of these companies?
Okay, we're working on some microorganisms right now to deal with human waste. They won't be in the bag. It'll probably be more in the powder that we actually put in the bag and what it does. Right now, we're finding it somewhat effective in pit toilet environments, but it's not as beneficial. Let's say the user of an actual bag would not benefit from the use of it yet, as far as they wouldn't see it and see why it maybe costs more than what our normal bag does. So we continue to work along that line. And like I said, it'll remove the pathogens, everything, and that's what our goal is. That's kind of where we're at right now with that. We haven't looked at any more of the degradation of the bag itself. I think our company started in '99, and at first they had some bags that were actually biodegrading before you actually used them, and that was horrible for anybody. And so then they went and they got another manufacturer, and there the bags weren't biodegrading whatsoever, so now they've gotten it where it is, and they do start to break down within 6 to 9 months.
Yeah, and I think that, Rest Stop is also constantly looking at ways to improve our bag and to make it be something that is biodegradable or, better yet, compostable, and I think that whoever in this community comes up with a bag that contains the odor, processes the waste, and can be compostable, then that's the perfect solution. And I think all of us are kind of trying to work to that point. But in the meantime, we have to work with the technology that we have.
I wanted to know, what is the relationship that these companies have with the final disposal? Because, for example, in the case of Aconcagua, we have tried with biodegradable bags, but the problem then, they went to a landfill. So there was no point to use these bags. So I would like to know if the companies are working, what is the final disposal place and what is the best technology according to the final disposal?
Well, I can speak to the Rest Stop bags and the other commercial bags that are on the market now that, they're approved by the EPA and the Department of Environmental Quality for landfill disposal. But that's as far as it goes. We are not involved with the actual disposal, but having that approval and having the letters of proof for every state in the United States, at least for Rest Stop, and every Canadian province.
With pack-out systems, from what might have been proposed 10 or 15 or 20 years ago to where we are now is worth noting, that we've sort of coming down that continuum. And really, I see this as kind of a three-way partnership. You have management, the visitor, and the retail industry all sort of working together for a solution or a product or service that, is going to be used by the public. So, that's worth noting. And then the idea that you mentioned about ultimately that the visitor should be responsible for that product, I would agree with, because we don't provide any other piece of gear as managers. We are still, and I think it's part of that introductory phase to get the buy-in, but eventually getting to where people go through their checklist, their gear list before they go on an outing, and that's a standard piece of equipment that they provide.
I just wanted to follow up on that point because Ellen opened up the whole conference talking about Chouinard equipment and kind of being innovators in clean climbing. And I was thinking about it today when we're talking about the pack-out systems that climbers use and the innovations that they've come up with to remove human waste from big walls. Kind of shows that, one, they're trying to come up with their own solutions. Two, that Metolius and a lot of other companies have come up with waste cases and worked with Rest Stop and WagBag and others to develop a product. And then finally, after all of that has happened, the management comes in and says, well, actually, we like what you guys are doing, and we're going to require that for everybody else and make that a regulation, but we're not providing the product. And we do provide bear canisters, but through like a conservancy. We don't like vend those straight from we found somebody else to do that for us.
I guess my question to you all here now is, after seeing how other people are doing it, is anyone looking to change based on what you've seen here over the last 2 days?
I am a little bit. Definitely, we have an issue, and I've talked to Coulter and the other engineer that's here about it. We have an issue with disposing WagBags and Rest Stops and other bags directly into dumpsters because they can't go into the pit toilets, because they can't get pumped out of the pit toilets. So basically, off the record, I tell climbers, since they are approved in all 50,
I'll get you
all
the letter.
all landfills, and I can't put that into writing because it's against our policy. But we basically, when people ask, what do we do with the WAG bag or the rest stop, tell them put it in the dumpster, and that puts me in a kind of a funky situation, and maybe I shouldn't even be talking about it right here without talking to, discussing that with my park unit. But yeah, I'd love to have another system where I would have something like what they have at Whitney, where it's a direct deposit, so to say, a receptacle that we could have packed out to the local landfill, and then to follow up with what was your name again? Augustina was talking about having the end result, have something that would go directly into a composting facility for the WAG bags and rest stops and other types. And I know the Mariposa County landfill does have a pretty progressive system. They do a lot of, they divide a lot of their recyclables, and they do have a very, very in-depth progressive compost for a lot of the Yosemite's food waste. So I'm hoping that we could actually evolve and put some of our human waste directly into that composting system.
I'm just as intrigued. I think we can always improve every system, and I've been thinking about the same thing with working on some type of moldering system using the biodegradable bags we have, and maybe having this company create even a better biodegradable bag, and then have those directly go into some type of moldering system that we'd probably figure out how to do it again, but figure out a place for it, and mix it occasionally and add the right stuff to make it work, and do some research on that. But that would be pretty cool, where our stuff would come off and be be composted without ever having to leave the area of Talkeetna and not have to go into their sewer septic system or down to Wasilla and be clean. So.
Curious about this part prohibition on the disposal of the WAG bags with the rest stops and the garbage. What's that all about? You know the rationale?
Basically, the park policy is that the facilities workers don't want to handle human waste in their solid human waste receptacles. Right. Coulter, you want to come up and answer that? Coulter's the branch chief for design and engineering in Yosemite.
It's kind of a question for a lot of groups at Yosemite, and it's a new question. And you have a county landfill you have to police, and that's doable. You have NPS facility management who has a lot of, it's not a formal written policy, and I'm not sure how, again, it's a new conversation. I think it would be pretty easy to resolve with getting all the right players to the right table, asking that pointed question. So I expect a real near-term resolution there. The end receiver is the county landfill, and that's where any sort of strict policy needs to be. That's where you're going to have your biggest question marks. Everything else is an internal bureaucracy that can be worked with.
I guess they have rules in all 50 states. Usually the state regulations are what drive what the landfills do. So.
Right, that's why I expect a successful resolution to that. I mean, I hadn't actually formally heard the question had been asked till coming on this trip, so I think by the end of next week that'll be a resolved issue.
Would any of the bag manufacturers care to divulge what the primary ingredient is of basically the powder inside the bag? What's the primary ingredient that breaks down the waste?
Well, I'll just quickly say that in Rest Stop, I won't go into which enzymes it is, but the powder that we use is a mix of polymers and enzymes. So the polymers will take care of any liquid, and then the enzymes break down the waste. So if you want a list of the exact enzymes, I'll send them to you.
I'm wondering if it's possible to buy just the material that's put in the bags in bulk from any of the suppliers.
Yeah, we offer the powder already pre-mixed and everything in bulk. So give me a call.
One of the issues that comes up is bags left along the trail. And I wondered if there was any option to have a place on the bag where it said name, and then when these are issued, that you actually wrote your name so that we could find the people that lost their bags.
Actually, a couple of the national parks and wilderness areas that I work with do write the permit number on the bag, and then they will fine people if they're left behind. I think they should actually send the used bag along with the ticket. But you know, that is one solution, because unfortunately, most of the areas that I've been working with, Zion National Park, Yosemite, Rocky Mountain National Park, et cetera, have been very successful with this Rest Stop program. But yes, we know that there will always be people, as Dawa Stevens spoke to last night about Everest, and other people that I work with tell me that these areas, you know, you do have some people that are going to leave the bags behind. So I don't think it's a bad idea to, if you have a permit system, write the person's permit number, write their name, advertise them.
Yeah, we've learned with Denali to do that, and it's very, very successful. It's amazing that there are some people that are dumb and just leave their bag on the trail, and we flip the bag. We always write on near the bottom, flip the thing over, and there's their number, and they get tickets in the mail. We mail out quite a few every fall, and they're always kind of shocked to get a federal violation notice in the mail.
On that same point, I tried to climb Aconcagua several years ago. Augustine may know about this policy they have. But they issue, this is for trash bags, not for excreta, but they issue trash bags with your name on it, and you have to bring it back full, or you get charged, I think it was at least $100, maybe more. It was a big fine. You couldn't come back with just a couple of items in there. They'd charge you. So you kept every single scrap of everything. And you took it back down to the base camp, or the road there below Plaza de Mulas. On the other thing about the powders, I don't know what they are either, but I will say this, which is public knowledge. Urea is being used and is being tested by Swedish researchers, Björn Wieneris and Håkon Jonsson. Their work is available online out of the Swedish Agricultural University, SLU. And a guy actually at my school in Norway is doing some PhD work on that as well, with the head of Sustainable Sanitation Design, Karsten Scheffle, who's in Oslo. So urea apparently put into a bag, and interestingly, the urea content of urine is not enough, which is why urine won't do this. But urea itself, put into a closed container, will raise the pH to approximately 9.5, and it does this throughout the matrix. And then you get pathogen die-off over about a month. Now, whether or not that material, the question I have for this is whether or not that material is then suitable to just put on farmland, because as has been mentioned, there are sort of battles between carbon and nitrogen going on that need to sort of be settled before you get that on soil, where you can be robbing soil nutrients. And that's a question I have for those researchers, and I know them because I'm over there in Europe with them. So anyway, I just throw that out to anybody that wanted to know that strange piece of information.
Just a comment. In the 10 years I've been with Leave No Trace, I've seen a tremendous swing of the pendulum. When I started, only the nut job mountaineers and rafters did anything with their poop, other than put it in a cat hole. Move forward 10 years, and it's not uncommon for people to just accept the fact that they're going to pack out their own human waste. And so it's amazing to see how far we've come, and the fact that these products are commercially available that make it sanitary and easy for people to comply with that. I think we've come a long way, and it's just it's very encouraging from my position, feeling like we're sort of on the front lines, people calling us and asking, what do we do with human waste? It's been interesting to see the evolution over the past 10 years, so it's very encouraging.
I'm on the wrong end of the group, but I do have a question for land managers. and it's a different exit from a different animal, but can somebody here please make a statement from land managers as to the equine group? We've heard from rafters, we've heard from climbers, we've heard from cavers. Is there any proactive activity going on for people who take their horses into the backcountry in our national parks, et cetera, and how is that moving forward, if there is a movement at all, no pun intended?
I'm Belinda Tao, and I'm the president of the Backcountry Horsemen of North Georgia. And I am a master educator for L&T in pack stock use with equine. And in our program, I said, really, if you look at it like this, we have twice as much crap as everybody else because we've got ours and our horses to have to disperse. So yes, we do educate our users in how to properly disperse your horses' crap and our crap. So, but there is programs, and if you'll check out the websites and the L&T website, you can sign up for these, and we cook for you and take you out for a whole weekend and teach you how to do it properly.
As far as stock use is concerned, we get this question a lot. How come we have to deal with our waste, but I have to walk through piles of horse shit? There's a practicality issue of packing out that much waste. The other argument that you hear is that if you look at horse feces, it breaks down fairly quickly on trails. I mean, it doesn't contain, horses don't eat McDonald's and take Viagra. So there's different things in their waste. It's a little closer to dirt, So, what we recommend is if you can deal with it adequately at facilities like trailheads, so that it's not the aesthetic issue. And then on trails, if you're willing to hop off your horse and kick it off a trail, at least from be considerate of other visitors' perspective, that's a good step in the right direction. As far as the science behind that, I mean, there are some studies that look at invasive species as a result of horse manure and that sort of thing, but I think that's an area that needs some more attention, perhaps.